Good evening, everybody. So there was something that I was listening to, and yes, this is a response to Noodle Mash again. If you are uncomfortable or you don't like that, you do know where to find the door. Because I wanted to point out how the contradictions continue. So I would like for you to gather around, and I wanted to point out something to somebody who continuously says, I don't watch him, I don't watch anything he does. But she responds to everything I do. Now, let me put out a disclaimer out there before this noodle gets drug out like Lady and the Tramp sucking on a noodle and they just can't let go until they smooch. Feel me? Now, Noodle continues to say, well, first of all, she continues to support and allow and make excuses for homophobic things that were said, and pointing out my homosexuality and defending that and saying it's okay to do that. I did not call her homophobic, so that's the first disclaimer. The second one is she continues to make videos talking about me, but then she'll say she doesn't want a response, or that's it, but she'll continue to lie and contradict herself. And then she'll say, when somebody asks you to leave them alone, and then she brings up whatever disabilities, still don't know what they are, okay? Because that's besides the point. Again, it's not funny to make fun of people with disabilities. That is why I stand up for Mrs. Portland. But the thing is, I'm not talking about any disabilities. I am talking about the things that you say about me and you support about me. So let's make that very clear before you gather around.
No chance, no dance, no chance, no dance, no chance. Give me second chances. That's so cool! I won! Yay! Ow! Ow! My
This is pre-recorded because it's going to be quick and to the point. One thing I wanted to point out was Noodle Mash made a video. If you didn't know, it was, in a nutshell, it was referring to the comment that was put by Cheryl Lutz on her channel. And it was referring to me moving in with my boyfriend and his brother, who's not gay. But this person said, 3 gay men living together, oh, that'll work. Being sarcastic, basically saying that gay men are not reliable enough, or somehow that would be bad and it wouldn't work out because we're gay men. Noodle Mash immediately went on her channel. Now, this is a woman who consistently says, oh, they were saying this about me in the chat and comments and blah, blah, blah. So again, I turned the tables on her and said, are you going to allow this comment? Because you're always so outspoken about what Miss Portland said after I forgave her and Miss Portland apologized and took accountability. Now, Noodle Mash does not seem to want resolution or forgiveness of any form, especially when it comes to Miss Portland, because she has this outrage towards Miss Portland that, again, is very passive aggressive. And then one thing I want to point out is Noodle Mash said, should I go around and say that Robbie's misogynistic because he calls me a see you next Tuesday? And then she says in the same breath, well, I'm not going to do that because that wouldn't be right. So do you see what she did there? She literally said it out loud so people heard and will be like, yeah, he's misogynistic, which I'm not. Or else I would basically have no platform here because the majority of my viewers and friends are women who I love and adore. And the men too, I love and adore them. I don't go after people or respond to them based on gender. That would be discriminatory, and I don't do that. I stand up for Miss Portland, who has disabilities of her own and is a woman. But see, what Noodle Mash did was she turned around and put it out there and said, but I'm not going to do that, even though she just did that in the same breath. passive aggressively. So Noodle Mash immediately went on her channel when I called her out for this comment, and she defended it. And she said she's not going to remove it. And if the person who made this comment, being Cheryl Lutz, wanted to remove it herself, then that's up to her. But Noodle Mash saw no problem with it, and she's not going to remove it from her channel. So, you know, people were offended by it, but she's not going to remove it. She didn't care. So then what was it? 1 or 2 days later, Noodle Mash is cutting clay as usual, and she's talking about this. And then she goes after this Cheryl Lutz lady and says, you know, it's really wrong of you to not take accountability for having that comment there. And I believe she said something like she should have removed it or she should have taken accountability or whatever. And she was like, and you know, Cheryl allowed her to be attacked. So she's putting all of this on Cheryl. But the thing is, Noodle, you could have easily hit delete on this comment, even though you didn't put it, just to save the trouble. Instead of putting all the pressure on her, after all, it's not Cheryl's channel. It's your channel. And you proudly said, you're not going to remove it. And you didn't. So if you got any backlash for that, that is not Cheryl's fault. It's your fault. Because you defended it. You stood by it, and you had the ability to hit delete, and you didn't. You said you were going to leave that up to her to do it, and she didn't, which maybe she wasn't even listening. Maybe she didn't even know you said anything or I said anything. Who knows? I don't think I've seen her since. So the fact that you're putting it all on her and, again, playing a victim or, you know, like, this wasn't your fault, then why did you stand by it and defend it, is my question to you. Now, I told you, every time you speak about me or lie about me or, you know, try to passive aggressively get your subscribers to come after me or hate me or whatever, I'm going to respond to you. And I'm just like you said, I'm going to call out behavior and I'm going to commentate on it exactly how I see it. I am not a victim. You, again, were the one who decided to bring my name up on your channel, criticize my friendship with Mrs. Portland, and you put responsibility on me for everything that comes out of Mrs. Portland's mouth. You put responsibility on me to criticize my friend when she's already apologized and she's doing great things. But you wouldn't know that because you focus on all of the bad things about Mrs. Portland and myself and many other people. You also say that people are doing this to you because it's an organized attack because you're friends with Natasha Cooper, who's been removed off of this platform. That is not the case. Where's your proof for that? I've responded to you because you took it upon yourself to bring up my name. The only thing I've ever really said about you and Natasha Cooper is it's very clear, and I've seen this multiple times, many people have. In order to build people's channels, people have gotten close to Natasha, and Natasha sees right through that. And the thing is, I've warned you about her. As soon as she had enough of you or sees what you're doing, because everybody does, in my opinion, and Natasha sees it. You are getting in nice with her because she has a lot of people you can gain, a lot of followers you can gain from her. So you're constantly defending her. This is not the first time we've seen this. This is not the first time we've seen people channel build and get close to Natasha to build their channels. And so they defend her whether they agree with her or not. And you defend everything she does. You often say that you're against people going after looks, or you often say you throw it in people's faces that they've mentioned your mouth or your teeth. But are you aware Natasha's done that to multiple people? About teeth specifically, she's done it to Mrs. Portland. She's done it to Country Joe. She's done it to Granny's Watching. She's done it to multiple people. She's done it to me. Nobody's teeth are that white. Mine are, and they're all real. But you're okay with that. So the more you sit there and put responsibility on everyone else about what comes out of Mrs. Portland's mouth or anybody else's, and you use the word us and we as a community, there's no we. There's me. And I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth. And the more you say, you supported, you didn't call Miss Portland out for her slurs against you. Well, I didn't have to. She immediately apologized and was very kind and supportive and let me know she was just angry. And she's very proud of her brother-in-law who's married to a man. And you don't see that part. You don't focus on the forgiveness part or the peace part. And we've even offered for you to have peace with Mrs. Portland. I've offered to mediate privately before things got out of hand. And you didn't want that. Even when I reached out to you, you didn't want that. You didn't even respond. You went on your channel and continued your hate campaign. It's very simple to have peace. And that's why this is back and forth. And I am getting sick of responding to you, and it's going to end soon, no matter what you do, because I'm sick of arguing with a wall, with a fool. So with that being said, I want to end it on a positive note and let you know that peace is always possible, no matter how far things go, no matter how many mean things are said. Peace is always possible. And I will say, I am willing to speak to you. Whether you want to do it privately, publicly, on a neutral platform, it won't be mine, it won't be yours. But I think privately, it's very easy to squash. Talk to many people where they just reached out and were like, hey, I was a dick. I'm like, yeah, me too, sorry. I just did that with Glenn and Trisha. We were dicks to each other because Natasha caused that division. Very simple, like, sorry, I was a dick. Yeah, me too. Simple as that. It doesn't have to be going back and forth. It doesn't have to continue with passive aggressive or aggressive comments back and forth to each other. Simple, hey, sorry, I'm sorry. Let's move on. So with that being said, any grief or stress I put upon you, I'm going to be the bigger man and say, I'm sorry. Now let's move on. This is not content. This is bullshit. So if you truly want a resolution, let's just simply put it to rest. No more passive-aggressive comments, no more aggressive comments on my end, and we're good to go. If that sounds like a deal to you, then let's do it. We don't even have to talk. You can publicly say, okay. But again, like I've said before, it has to stop completely. Because what you've done is you've been like, I'm not going to talk about him, don't mention names, but then you still talk about me and Miss Portland and everyone else. To make it stop, you have to stop. Just because you're not mentioning names, that's not stopping. That's continuing spreading lies. People know who you're talking about. So just stop completely, and I'll stop completely. And that's all that needs to be done. With that, I wish you peace, happiness, and if you wish to reach out, you know how to contact me. If not, have a beautiful day. Good night.
No chance. No